19th century, there was a concern that everybody was using the same type of camera, so how could one's work stand out? Was there an individual artistic personality that would make photography quote-unquote art? Today, photography is considered an art form in itself, but can the same be said about art generated by artificial intelligence? The portrait of Edmond de Belamy, created by the French team collectively known as Obvious, might not actually be the first ever AI-generated art piece, but it was the first to be sold at auction, and it went for an impressive $432,500, much more than the expected $7,000 price tag. But artists have been using AI to create art for the last 50 years now. The most prominent and early example of this would be the work of Harold Cohen and his art-making program Aaron, which I'm sure isn't the correct pronunciation of the acronym, but one I will be using nonetheless. Aaron is an artificial intelligence program that generates art based on a set of rules Cohen programmed into it. For example, one set of rules could be to simply draw a straight red line. Using this rule, Aaron would generate a painting that consisted of various straight red lines. These paintings by Cohen were abstract, constructed by lines of code, which instructed the algorithm to draw the lines for him. 40 years later, generative adversarial networks, or GANs for short, were developed. Basically, a GAN has two components, a generator and a discriminator. The generator makes a new image based on a data set of thousands of portraits painted within a certain time period. The discriminator tries to spot the difference between a human-made image and one created by the generator. The aim is to fool the discriminator into thinking that the new images are real-life portraits. And that brings us to the portrait of Edmond de Belamy. It was sold at the same auction where an Andy Warhol print went for $75,000 and a work by Roy Lichtenstein sold for $87,500. Portrait of Edmond de Belamy actually went for a price that was a 4,320% increase over its initial pre-sale estimate. It was sold to an anonymous person over the phone, bidding between someone attending the auction in person. We might not know who that person was, but according to Christie's catalog description, the print is one of a group of portraits of the fictional Belamy family created by AI and trained by the group known as Obvious, whose members explore the field of art and artificial intelligence using a set of algorithms. Checking on the sale beforehand, many observers became curious and suspected something was afoot. The portrait was the only one that didn't have an artist listed. Instead, the portrait was listed as Generative Adversarial Network Print on Canvas 2018, signed with GAN model loss function and ink by the publisher for a series of 11 unique images published by Obvious Art Paris with original gilded wood frame. The piece is of a blurry man in what appears to be a 17th century style of dress. Image was created after referencing 15,000 portraits from various periods from online art encyclopedia WikiArt spanning the 14th to the 19th century. The name Belamy is a tribute to Ian Goodfellow, inventor of GANs, and French bel ami means good friend, which is a translation for the pun of Goodfellow's name. It's nice that the three behind Obvious pay homage to the creator of GANs, but their artwork would not be possible if they didn't use a code written by someone else. In fact, insiders say the code used to generate the portrait was mostly the work of another artist and programmer, 19-year-old Robbie Barrett, a high school graduate who shared his algorithms online via an open-source license on GitHub. There was even a documented exchange between Barrett and one member of Obvious named Hugo Cassel-Dupree, going by the name of Cassels. Obvious asked Barrett for the code and even repeatedly asked him to change the code for them. Obvious admitted to using the code by Barrett, but said they modified it. Exactly how much work can be credited to Barrett or Obvious is a tricky question. Generating images using GANs is a multi-step process. First, you collect training data with what's called a scraper. The network then replicates this data. Then the generative algorithm must be constructed. Finally, the algorithm is run and the output has to be sorted through to pick the best examples out of hundreds or thousands of generated images. Some suggest that the images made by Obvious to the original algorithm are minor and that 90% of the work was already done by Barrett. Just running Barrett's code with zero adjustments resulted in similar results to what Obvious came up with. But Barrett says he holds no grudges and is mostly annoyed that the auction might give outsiders the wrong impression of AI art. He said he was more concerned about the fact that actual artists using AI are being deprived of the spotlight. And the lawsuits have already started against AI tools such as Midjourney and Stable Diffusion. The lawsuits consist of 3 criteria. The artists didn't consent to having their art referenced and used for these generative pieces. They were not compensated for their involvement, and their influence was not credited when the AI images were produced using their work. Some artists want to remove their work from the database being used to train AI models, but at this point, the algorithms behind today's AI tools were already trained on over 5 billion images. This number will only grow as it is a small fraction of what is available online. But it's important to know that AI isn't going anywhere. It's best to figure out how to use it to our advantage as creators before it is too late. It's not necessarily copying work that's already being created, it's learning from it. There have been plenty of examples through history questioning the veracity of emerging technologies in art. Photography came about in the 19th century and was said to be the death of painting. Calculators and personal computers were said to be the death of classroom learning. Music file sharing drastically changed how we were able to receive and ingest our favorite musical artists. But creating art that has been influenced by others is nothing new, and now it is no longer strictly a human thing. However, creating art that uniquely transcends what anyone has seen before will likely always be a product of human ability.